Good morning, guys. I am Ryan here with Michigan Storm Chasers. We do have a upgrade to a slight risk, level 2 out of 5 in place for a pretty good chunk of lower Michigan. Anywhere basically from Lansing to Kalamazoo, north to Mount Pleasant to Saginaw, up to just south of Roscommon there. But also a marginal risk there now in place for the entire lower peninsula that's not in that slight risk. So Detroit, Ann Arbor, Adrian, Monroe, you guys are all in that marginal up there near Sheboygan, Gaylord, Alpena, Traverse City, you guys as well. All right. Not surprising, but we do have a couple of concerns today. Number one being damaging winds as your primary driver of that slight risk. The highest corridor of that potential is a 15% yellow risk area there and a 5% there in darkish brown red color around it. So the highest corridor of risk is going to be centered within that yellow area, but still could get some damaging winds throughout the state outside of that yellow area. We do have a hail threat. It's not very high. It's a 5% across the board. So a pretty low chance of hail, severe hail over a quarter or an inch in diameter. That's a quarter size. Again, not really seeing too much there. Not going to rule that out completely, though. Entire lower peninsula in the exact same risk from top to bottom. All right. Now, we do have a favored corridor today for a couple tornadoes up by Mount Pleasant, Saginaw, Flint, Alma. That corridor from basically Mount Pleasant over to the Thumb area, so almost into Huron County there, near Caseville, just go ahead and say Port Austin, those areas there. That 5% brownish red color, if I go ahead and zoom in for a favored corridor. But we also have a 2% green area around that, so places like Lansing, Grand Rapids, all the way back toward I believe it's Manistee and Ludington areas. You guys are in that 2% risk. It is shifted just north of Detroit and Ann Arbor, as well as Kalamazoo and Battle Creek. But you guys are close, so don't let your guard down. But the favored corridor is going to be within that reddish area here, from the Mount Pleasant to Alma area over to the Tri-Cities into the Thumb. All right. Now, let's go ahead and dive into some of these models here. It is going to be a messy type of day. We're not gonna lie to you. It's gonna be a messy type of day. There's a lot of fail modes here. Number one being we're gonna be looking at our radar here. We can take live radar, but I'll hold off on that. I'll go ahead and show you guys the current model. We're gonna have this, and I'm looking at radar over here behind the scenes here. We do have a couple areas in the central northern part of lower Michigan that has rain moving in right now. That rain very well could stabilize the atmosphere. What that means is we don't have the unstable air to fuel storms. Our severe risk would then go down. All right. We're going to watch that close. But right now, models do show a couple areas destabilizing. Let's go ahead and move the model through the air or through the time frame. This is at 10 a.m. this morning. I'm making this video at 9:30 because I'm probably going to see it around that 10 a.m. time frame. So let's go ahead and bump this forward into the afternoon. We're going to have northern lower in a bunch of rain. Here comes the concern here along this leading line that's going to try to develop here. As we get toward afternoon, the instability should increase as well. And notice there's nothing below this line of storms here. So this is all unstable air more than likely. Zooming up or filling up into the state here. But that is going to interact with these storms. And by 4 or so p.m., we have some pretty strong looking storms here along that Mount Pleasant area toward the West Branch area as well. This is 4 p.m. and here's 5 p.m. And that's going to be in that corridor up there of that 5% tornado risk. But we zoom this back into the evening, we're going to see a pretty much scattered to widespread rain at the very least with rumbles of thunder, but also severe weather is possible. Although it doesn't look organized on the model, the environment would suggest that it's possible for severe weather today, hence the slight risk upgrade. So treat this as potential severe storms in a line to scattered to widespread. And regardless of severe weather, thunderstorms are likely, but also flash flooding potential across the state. I think pretty much the entire state today is within at least a marginal to a slight risk of excessive rainfall. So heavy rain with the heat and humidity coupling together, heavy rainfall rates are likely today. But severe weather is going to be the primary driver of the concern today. But just do pay attention for flash flooding, as that can be dangerous as well. That's one model. Let's go ahead and dive into one more model here as well. It shows something similar. A similar picture being painted here across central Michigan here, right around that, we're going to say right around the 3 to 4 p.m. time frame. We go ahead and zoom this in just a bit. We're going to see that cell pop up here, roughly the same place as the last model we looked at over the Tri-Cities, West Branch, Mount Pleasant area. A little bit of a widespread scattered area there, but just general area talking around that area. And we're going to see that cell track into the northern Thumb. But other than that, that line comes through a bit later on, and we'll have to keep an eye on that as well. This comes a little bit later, 9, 10 p.m. So overall, time frame today, we're going to be watching as early as 3 p.m., but the threat could continue into the evening hours, 10, 11 p.m. It's going to be messy. Nothing is going to be organized that we think currently. That's our current thinking. That could change. But it looks like a pretty messy type of system. But the wind shear is there. It is directional wind shear, which means it's going to turn with height to get updrafts to rotate just a bit. We're concerned for all hazards. Damaging winds should be the primary concern. A low chance of large hail today, but tornadoes definitely on the table, especially in that red area there where we're seeing that, seeing a couple cells on all these models that are trying to key in on this one particular area, from that Mount Pleasant area over to West Branch and Tri Cities up into the thumb there. So do pay attention if you live anywhere within these 2% risk, the green and red areas, but also for damaging winds if you live in any type of risk today. And honestly, the entire lower peninsula is in a threat today for damaging winds and hail. But again, that favored corridor is going to be within a slight risk area, and especially for tornadoes in that green and red zone here. All right. We'll have updates on the page. We'll be going live here at 10 a.m. If you guys see this video before that, we'll be live at 10 a.m. to discuss. We have chasers who are chasing this. We'll be live later on with radar coverage. If need be, pay attention. Have ways to receive warnings today, guys. It is going to be interesting for sure. The hazards are definitely in play here. So just make sure you have ways to receive warnings. Midland Weather Radios, your emergency app by Red Cross, your EAS alerts on your phone, friends and family. Make sure you have the whole plethora ready to go today if you live in this risk. The potential is there, and I will communicate that. But again, it's going to be messy. So there is potential for this to kind of downplay and downtrend just a bit. So keep that in mind. All right. Regardless, rain and storms likely today across the state. A little bit cooler temperatures coming in for tomorrow. So we'll talk about that on our a little bit later on today. Hopefully, we have time to talk about that. But cooler temperatures to come tomorrow. And we're going to warm back up into next week when more severe chances are on the table next week. Pay attention to that as well. We'll have you guys covered. With that being said, stay safe, stay tuned to our page as well as your local NWS office as well as SPC for updates. It updates again at 12:30 p.m. We'll post if anything changes. That's all I got for you guys. Hit like on your way out. Consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll see you guys later on today for some coverage as well as our briefing here at 10 a.m.